Hey guys, welcome into my workshop tutorial for the multi-strand stretch bracelet with diagonal pattern for the Experience Workshop. That's what we're going to be making today, and I'm glad you're here to kind of get, even if you're an advanced jewelry maker, it's good to kind of get a refresher on things. I think I'm always learning from everybody about jewelry making, and this is kind of a staple design that I do a lot. I make a lot of jewelry around here, and I just thought I would share my tips and tricks in case you guys have never made a multi-strand stretch bracelet. So yeah, it's gonna be awesome. We're gonna hang out here for about an hour, and I could talk a lot about stretch bracelets, I think. I just love them. And you may know me from Create Like Katy, which is my normal weekly show here in this studio. And so if you don't know that show, you might join in. It's, I have it twice a week, and it's really fun. We just do kind of one simple demo each time, and it's great. So find me. And also, let me know if you guys love this tutorial or if you make it, and I want to see pictures. I love seeing y'all's work after you make the project. It's so fun. So thanks for being here. And also, hopefully you got the tutorial for this, which is a great way to follow along too. Like if you want to grab it right now and have it printed out beside you and follow it while we go, that could be really helpful too, because I even have my copy with me because I like to follow my tutorial too a little bit. Sometimes it's just helpful to have a visual, an audio, or two visuals, I guess, a printed and a tutorial. A moving picture. Yeah, 2D. Okay, let's not even get into dimensions right now, but let's get started on this tutorial. First of all, though, I would like to tell you guys there are lots of different stretch cords out there. The one that I started on, which is great, it's more of an elasticity type of stretch cord, and that's going to be, I don't know if you can see this cord, but that's this. It's thicker. You don't need to use a needle, and it's fabulous. It's great. But for multi-strand bracelets, it's not so great, in my opinion, because it's so tight, there's not a lot of give to it that you can't really do anything. So today we're gonna be using Elonga, and it actually allows your bracelet to stretch out. It's a multi-filament cord, so if it does start to fray, if it gets weak, it just frays. It doesn't usually snap like elasticity. So you're gonna get a much better stretch. I mean, this is not okay for me. I can barely put that on my hand. So if you've never worked with a Elonga or a multi-filament stretch cord, you'll probably learn a lot today. But I mean, this is another elasticity one. This is how I used to make them when I started. These are my bracelets, and I only knew how to do it with that cord, and they're just really tight. So now I always use either Opalon or Elonga to do my stretch bracelets, and I just love them. I've got them all over me, but I wanted to show you kind of the difference between those two types. So it does take a little bit more time. You will have to use a little collapsible eye needle, which are fabulous. And I just need one for this project. That's this. I've got my Elonga. This is the 0.7 millimeter size. And then I like to have at least 5 or so bead stoppers. I like to have a little pile of them when I make these bracelets, because you'll see why it's important. So if you don't have bead stoppers, which I do know that I got special ordered for this specific workshop, I was like, we have to have bead stoppers in stock because it's one of the fundamental parts of this project. You just got to have a bunch. You can't just have one if you're going to do multi-strand. Okay, so then also this project is specific for 6 millimeter round gemstone beads. which we have so many of here at JTV Jewel School because they're so popular and just great for jewelry making. But you're gonna need some of these. And also these are just 3-hole connectors. You could probably use most any 3-hole connectors you have. But for me, for my spacing, for my pattern, we're gonna need 7 of those. So I would just, depending on the beads and the size of your connectors and the size of your wrist, this pattern may not be exactly what you need to follow, but you can always just try to add like a few at the end or something. I don't know. I hope you guys got to pick these up and shop early because it's just kind of a specific pattern, but let me show you this one. So this is exactly what we'll be making today. And this is a really fun diagonal pattern. So you see me spin the bracelet, you can kind of see how the colors shift diagonally, and it's a really fun technique. But also if you want, you can just make it all one color. You don't have to do that. Basically, this is just a beginner refresher on multi-strand stretch bracelets with Ilonka. Okay, so pretty. All right, so you're gonna need 7 different colors of beads and 12 of each bead, okay? And then once again, you'll need 7 connectors. So that kind of lines up, right? All right, and then I've got my cord cutter. This is a Xuron cord cutter. We also have another great cord cutter that you can pick up if you need to, but scissors also tend to work pretty well as long as they're super sharp. This can be a tricky cord to cut if you don't have the right tool. Okay, and then I got a needle, my bead stopper. So when working with Ilonka, you can choose to either double up your cord or you can do a single strand. So what I mean by that is that, I think that makes sense. You either double it up or you just use one length of it per strand. I'm gonna double mine up. So cut 3 feet or so, like twice the length of a little over twice the length of a strand of your bracelet. Cut it off and then thread your needle to the middle. Okay, so now you can see it's doubled up and you're gonna clip your bead stopper, which if you've never used this, all you do is you kind of just take those 2 little round parts and pull together and then put your pieces in the same little slot and let it squeeze. So that'll keep your beads from falling off. And okay, now we're gonna start stringing. All right, so the pattern goes, we're gonna start with a connector and thread through the top. Then you're gonna do 2 beads of the first color. Two beads of the second color. Whoa. And then you're gonna go through the top of your next connector. Okay, so we're gonna keep doing that same pattern down the whole first row. Every segment will have 4 beads. So now we're gonna add 2 of these. Two of these, color 3. And go through the top row of our next connector. Make sure your connectors are facing the same way and just all the same. Next segment, we're gonna do 2 of these and 2 of your next color, color 4. Another note is this bracelet makes a 7.5 inch bracelet, which is pretty standard, but if you need to add length, you can do that. You can add, you may need to add a whole nother section. So just pick another color of gemstone beads and grab another little 3-hole connector. Okay. All right, 2 of color 4, 2 of color 5. Another little tip is I love to alternate opacities with beads in these bracelets, like opaque, translucent, transparent, opaque, whatever. I think that looks really cool. It's pretty. All right. 2 of color 5, 2 of color 6. These are beautiful sodalite beads coming up. Pull down. Two sodalite. Color 6. And color 7. And then add your last connector. Still going through that top row. All right, so then the very last segment will be, can you guess it? 2 of the turquoise. And then 2 of color 1. Okay, so that's our first row, and we're ready to do the second row. It's so cute, and just make sure, take a look. This could be a good opportunity for you to make sure it'll be the right size for you. You know, maybe try to hold it around your wrist. And a great place to start by adding length, more than just adding a whole another section, I would just add 1 more of color 1, or however many more you need. I would just add more of that color right here. So, and just copy that pattern here. I would just add a couple more there. But anyways, okay. So now all you're gonna do is you're gonna take this side, cut right here. Don't cut your needle, but just cut there, and grab another bead stopper, squeeze open and put here. For me, it's really helpful to put the Elonga in the same area because it just keeps things neater for some reason. All right, grab another bead stopper, cut another segment of Elonga, about almost 3 feet or so. Thread your needle to the middle. Oh, and grab another bead stopper. And if you only have 2 bead stoppers, you can do this, but it just gets a little confusing if you start to clip multiple things in 1 bead stopper to me, so I'm just gonna use 5. All right, ready for row 2. So start by stringing through that second hole of the first connector. And now you're gonna do 3 of bead color 1. It's gonna be my coral. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 of the second color. And then we're gonna go through the second hole of the second connector. Now we'll do 3 of color 2. And and then one of color 3. And then go through the 3rd connector, 2nd hole. And you can kind of see where this pattern's going. We'll add 3 of color 3. One of color 4. And then go through that connector. And just keep it going. 3 of color 4. One of color 5, and go through the next connector. I think it's kind of easy to pull, just to pull those beads all the way down here. Go through that, and then go through the connector. I'm just going to keep following this pattern. You can see on my wrists, I'm also wearing stretch bracelets. This is a really fun option if you want to add little spacer beads in between each bead. These are 11 seed beads here. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with this technique. Pull through. Oops, need to grab a turquoise. Go through the connector. And we are back to the last segment of the 2nd row. 3 turquoise, 1 coral. 3 turquoise, 1 of color 1. Okay. So 2nd row is done, yay. Now we're gonna grab another bead stopper, cut our needle off. I try to go as far from the beads as possible, cut my needle, and then grab your little bead stopper and put it here. Okay, so ready for strand 3, grab another segment. Hopefully you can kind of see what I mean by doubling up now. If you need to, you can just, I think it's difficult, especially multi-strand. If you don't double up, then you're constantly your needle wants to fall off a lot, personally is what I think. So I like to double up. Okay. And if you have a little tiny piece, like if you cut your needle off, sometimes your elonga will get stuck in it like that. All you have to do is just pull it down and it just comes right out. I know it's kind of self-explanatory, but maybe you've never worked with this before. Okay, now grab your little bead stopper, put it on the other end, and we're ready for strand 3. Okay. So go through 3rd hole here. And then, so the pattern's gonna change a little bit. We're gonna do 4 of color 1. Ooh. I think you probably saw that coming if you are following the pattern. Okay, go through that 3rd hole of connector 2. And we do carry these connectors in silver as well. I hope they are in stock at this moment. They're really cute. But if you just go to our website and type in connectors or multi-strand or something like that, they should pop. Or you might say 3-hole connectors. And yeah, just at this point, we're doing solid color on this row. So I'm not really telling you about it. I think you can see that. I love my multi-strand stretch bracelets. Okay. And sodalite, beautiful gemstone. Finally, we've got the last segment with this turquoise. All right, so now we're getting ready to tie this off. And tying knots can tend to be one of the more frustrating parts of stretch bracelets, but the great thing about a longa is that it's really easy to tie a knot. You don't have to do anything super special, just make sure that you tie it and that you don't get it tangled with another row if you're doing a multi-strand bracelet. So I'm just going to kind of go through this. And another great thing about these connectors is you can hide the knot. That's why I started with a connector, is because the knot will hide under the connector and you won't be able to see it. So it's always good to hide your knot when you can, because it kind of takes your stretch bracelet up a step. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and do this. I'm going to start with row 1. Or if you want, you can actually start with where you just ended. It's up to you. I've still got my needle on here, which I'll probably just go ahead and cut off. Boo, don't lose it. And I've got another bead stopper that I'll put on there, just for fun. And I'm just gonna start at the top, actually, just because that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so looking at this may be a small detail that you want to do or not. I can see that those aren't the same. I just want to like reclip the top row real quick. I like them to be flat and then kind of the same tension. And I'm actually going to clip away from this. You want to have some room to tie your knot. Another little good tip is, I mean, you don't even have to keep your bead stoppers on at this point. You can take them off. But I'll do this one with the bead stoppers on just so you can see, and then I'll do the rest without them. It's kind of nice if you have like super long tails, just clip those off. The more stretch cord you have, the more complicated it will be. So I'm just gonna go this. Can you see that? Okay. All right, this is just a normal knot. I either go right over left or left over right. I just slid out of my bead stopper. Did you see that? Let me do the path again. Go around, through, and pull. And as you pull, I usually stick a finger in there to just kind of keep everything spread out, but also taut at the same time. Okay, and then that's done. If you want, you can do a second knot on top of that, but I don't need to do that. I mean, this is great stretch cord, it's gonna hold. And now I would go ahead and grab your cord cutter. See, that's where we tied the knot. And I'm gonna grab my little cord cutter and hold my tails up, both of them. Where's my knot? There it is. And then you just wanna cut right above it. So now that's gonna hide right under my connector. I cut it a little bit long, but that's okay. All right, so now you can, this is kind of a mess. But this is how it is to make a multi-strand bracelet. You've got to just kind of keep it organized because of craziness, lots of tails and cords and bead stoppers. Okay, so just gotta reset for a second. We're ready to tie our second strand, second level, whatever, second strand. I'm gonna go ahead and take my bead stoppers off. And this is way too long for me. I don't love that. So I'm gonna trim that long piece. Just way easier to manage. Okay, and then we're just gonna tie that as well, like we did the first one. Right over left, left over right. Pull. You wanna just pull both of those tails and then take your bracelet and pull it too, to make sure that it's pulling from both sides. And then grab your cord cutter. And trim those tails off. So then it just hides right underneath your connector. Okay, now let's do the next row. You might need to reset a little bit. I'm gonna take off my bead stoppers and tie another knot. Right over left. And left over right. Just kind of make sure it's good and tied. Grab your cutter. I find it easy to like pull, just try to pull those up a little bit, and then you can get right up next to the knot. Catch. And then all those little knots should, in theory, hide under the connector. And then it'll be so cute. All right, so that's kind of that's it. That's my multi-strand stretch bracelet with diagonal pattern. Just a great basic bracelet that you can use with any 6mm beads that you have at home and connectors. So let me just show you some of these other connectors you might find out there in the wild or at JTV. Here's a fun kind that I haven't seen us carry in a long time, but sometimes we do get them. They're kind of like blades almost. They're just like flat wire with holes in them. So this is a 4-strand one. You can see kind of the layout of these. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. These are real simple, really basic. That's one type. And this is the same type, but here's a fun way to use them. You can actually space them out with a spacer bead in between, which is really fun to do. So these are 5-hole connectors, like that, with little spacer beads in there. Here's a cute version. These are kind of similar to what we have today, but they're just like little blocks with 3 holes going through. And then you can use 6mm beads with spacers in between. So cute. And here's again these are the connectors that we use today. And here's an example of where I had to add length to this one because I just had to add length at the very end. So, but this is basically, let me show you the good side. This is the diagonal pattern, but it's one row instead of blocks of diagonals. It's just one row, boom, 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 like one bead per row in the diagonal. So that's another way to do it. It's just like you alternate the beads a step off. So now we're gonna make another bracelet with the same pattern, slightly different. It's gonna be more of a 1-by-1 color change instead of a block by block. So just grab your beads and your connectors and we'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna be using the silver version of the connectors. And I'm gonna use 7 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. And then I'm just gonna kind of, basically this pattern, I'm gonna start with the first row, and then whatever I do on the first row, I'm gonna step it down. Do the same thing, but moved over 1 space on the second row, and so on. So we'll see how pretty this is. I'll try to do interesting colors next to interesting colors, play with contrast, play with opacity, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just cutting up my strands. These are how our 6mm bead strands come a lot. They're all individually bagged and individually strung. If you've never made jewelry before, you might be like, how do I make that a necklace? This is actually how they come. They come on these temporary strands. Love it. These are all gemstone beads. I taught a class recently and actually she was like, do you have any blue goldstone? I was like, so impressed that I guess a lot of people do know about that gemstone, but I was very impressed. I didn't have any at the moment, unfortunately, but I do today. And yep, in our studio stash, just hanging out. Okay, I could probably stop, but maybe I'll add this pretty gray color. This is larvikite. I'm not sure exactly. I think this is larvikite. Okay, guys, let's get to stringing. Cut your first strand. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that double length. String my needle and get started. Since I know that the basic spacing of the first bracelet is good for me, I'm gonna keep that going where it's connector, 4 beads, connector, 4 beads, connector, 4 beads. Just like that. And we're kind of doing a rendition of the pearl bracelet right now, so you'll see how I do that. You can do this with any of your beads you have at home that are 6mm. Okay, so first I'm gonna go in the top row of my connector. And then I'm just gonna pick 4 beads that I think look pretty together. Kind of try to alternate. I want this to be contrast. Some good contrast here. Okay. Now do your next connector. And then 4 more beads that you like the color combo of. I need some of that stone. Gold stone's so pretty, so sparkly. Next connector. Top row. 4 more beads that you like the pattern of. Unakite. Tiger's eye. I'm gonna add another turquoise and a purple amethyst. And 1 more level. Let's see, I'm gonna do another unakite, another amethyst because it's just so gorgeous. Another. Got 2 more segments to do, I think. And then we'll get to our second row. All right, I'm I'm gonna lay this down in front of me. I actually think I have 2 more segments. Let's see, where am I? Where am I? Okay. So 2 more segments of beads. Definitely keep going back to those turquoise. And if you're just joining in, we are making our second multi-row stretch bracelet. If you need a more, I'll try to explain it as I go. We made that first more color blocked one first, and now we're doing kind of on the spot pattern making. I mean, this is just the same diagonal pattern, but it's just a step, one step. I'm trying to figure out how to want to say that, but it's just like, it's less blocky. It's just one row. Okay, first row is done, and this is just a random pattern I just made as we went. Now we're ready to do our second row. Go ahead and cut another piece of alonga. Make sure you remember to cut your needle off that first strand. Put your bead stopper on. Okay, thread your needle on that second piece. And once again, if you've never used this, this happens a lot where it'll get stuck in the end of your needle. Just gently pull it down. Okay, now just for this pattern, it's so easy that I hope I don't get lost in this, because the first time I did this, I got a little bit confused for some reason, but I think we're gonna do this. So we're gonna put it through our second row connector, and whatever your last color is, string one of those. Let me get it through there. Okay, so I'll do that. That was my last bead. Then I'll do an amethyst, which was our first bead. Then I'll do larvikite. And then I'll do magnesite, which was our third bead, like that. And then you're going to string those down and go through your second connector. Then we'll just follow that pattern. Next is tiger's eye, turquoise, quartzite, blue goldstone. String those down, go through your next connector, and so on. Tiger's eye, unakite, tiger's eye, turquoise. So it's just one step off. Amethyst, ooh. Unakite, amethyst, and blue quartzite. All right, so here we are. Magnesite, blue quartzite, turquoise, larvikite. Ooh, that's a good one. Has flash. Pull that down. Next hole, next connector. And okay, amethyst, turquoise, blue goldstone, larvikite. I really only used those 4. Okay. Pull through quartzite. Tiger's eye and blue quartzite again. All right, now we're ready for our last row. Gonna put a bead stopper on that row, cut my needle off, and get stringing on the next one. Making a mess. String on your needle. And put your bead stopper on just like we've done so many times before. Let's get stringing on our next one. Okay, and then the next pattern, you're just gonna do what we just did. You're gonna take the last color of the second row and start there and keep going, which is blue quartzite. Then we're gonna start here with that magnesite and follow that pattern 4 by 4. And I'm just gonna string this and not talk for a second. So let the music play. All right, so we are now done stringing our beads. We're ready to tie that off, and you can see that this pattern is just different colors striped diagonally instead of big blocks. So it's pretty easy. This is beginner, but it's always good to kind of just see how these are actually made full on, start to finish. Because sometimes we tend to use TV magic where we just magically are done, and so it's so important to see it in full time, I think. So let's go ahead and start with our top row. Well, actually, I'm gonna go ahead and cut my little needle off here and put my 6th bead stopper down here. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna start with the top row up here. I'm gonna go ahead and take my bead stoppers off. I normally don't leave those on when I tie. And I'm gonna move these two away from the bracelet a little bit towards the end of my cord. Just gonna reconfigure, reposition. Okay. Oops, okay, so just if you're doing that, make sure everything isn't twisted, because I just definitely twisted that up. Don't panic. All right. Here we go. I don't know how I did that. All right, I'm taking this off. I'm gonna just restring it this way. I can see that I did twist it up, but it's real life. All right, put this through here. Come here, you. All right, let's tie this off. All right, once again, we're just gonna start at the top row. Easy knot. Right over left, left over right. But I mean, you can also go right over right, right over right. But you don't have to do that. You don't want, I'm just gonna go left over right. Right over left. And I'm once again using my finger to hold my own knot there in the middle. You may have your friend do it if you have a buddy with you. And then take those two ends, trim with your flush cutter or just knot cutter. Okay, so that's the first one tied. Okay, now reset, kind of separate everything out so you know where you are. You're not lost. Somehow I flipped this one around, but I'm just gonna stick it through. Oops. I'm so glad that I caught that before I tied. Okay, let's do the middle row. I'm gonna take my bead stoppers off. Okay. Make sure there's no slack. Just do the same, left over right, right over left, however it's comfortable for you to just make a normal knot. Pull on the two tails just a little bit, pull on the base of the bracelet, and then trim those tails with your knot cutter. Not too close to the knot. And ready for the third. So you should just have this left. Okay. So go ahead and take your bead stoppers off. And once again, tie that knot. Left over right, right over left. And pull. I'm not pulling super hard. I'm just kind of like slowly dragging my hands out. So it just really ties up. Okay. Well, last but not least, we're going to trim that little knot with our knot cutter. And then we'll be finished. So cute, so cute, so cute. All right, guys, so that's 2 different ways to follow this diagonal pattern. And they're both great. You can also do no pattern at all. That also looks really pretty. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that demo. I really enjoy teaching multi-strand designs just because I really do make them a lot. And there are just little tips and tricks that I don't always get to explain as I go. Sometimes I'm trying to be a little more quick on my demos. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to catch you on Create Like Katy sometime or on another Jewel School show in the future. So find me, and if you make this design, maybe send me a little tag or something, like tag me in it in your pictures, or I don't know, would just love to say hi sometime. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your workshop experience. I'll see you guys sometime soon. Thanks again.